A small town in rural Kansas. A well-respected family brutally slain in cold blood. The murder shocked the nation and catapulted the killers into the media spotlight. Now, Sundance takes a fresh look at the murders made famous by Truman Capote. First-hand accounts.
For a long time, we didn't know who did it or why.
Unprecedented access to rare documents.
Truman told me the whole experience within Cold Blood scratched him down to the marrow of his bones.
And for the first time, the victim's family speaks.
A death like that has so many reverberations. It affects the next generation and the generation after that.
Discover the murders that made true crime an American obsession. Cold-Blooded, the Clutter Family Murders. A 2-night special event. Premieres Saturday, November 18th at 9 on Sundance.
In Cold Blood, the Manhunt. Dick Hickok and Perry Smith murdered Herb, Kenyon, Bonnie, and Nancy Clutter in cold blood during the early morning hours of November 15th, 1959, a Sunday. Chief Mitch Geisler of the Garden City Police Department is one of the first officers to respond to the murder scene at the Clutter's farmhouse. His assistant, Rich Rollator, arrives with the chief. An expert photographer starts photographing the crime scene. He took this photo of the floor next to Herb Clutter's body. If you look closely, you can see that the photo's been doctored. I did that. And you'll understand why later. The police found the murder weapons, the shotgun and the hunting knife, but they'd been wiped clean of prints. The only usable clue was a tire track they found in the dirt a short distance from the Clutter home. The officers believed the getaway vehicle left the tire track, so they took a plaster cast of the tread. In most murder investigations, the first potential suspects are the person or persons last seen with the victims. And the chief quickly learns that Bobby Rupp, age 16, spent the preceding night with the Clutter family. Bobby, the high school basketball star, was dating Nancy Clutter. The chief brings Bobby Rupp in for questioning, and it goes like this. Bobby Rupp says he called Nancy earlier on Saturday and asked her out on a date. Nancy had to ask her father for permission, but there's a problem. Rupp's Catholic, the Clutters are Methodists, and Herb Clutter wants Nancy to start dating boys from their own religion. So, instead of going out on a date, Herb suggests inviting Bobby over to the house to watch TV with the family, which he does. But when Rupp arrives, he notices that Nancy's not wearing the ring he'd recently given her to go steady. As it works out, she's pissed at him because she found out he went to a party without her and got caught drinking beer. So the chief looks at Bobby Rupp as a possible jilted lover seeking revenge and considers him a suspect. Chief asks Bobby to take a polygraph. Bobby agrees, passes the test, and eliminates himself as a suspect. Meanwhile, Dick Hickok and Perry Smith are 400 miles away from the murder scene, due east, back in Dick's hometown of Olathe, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City. And while Dick's eating supper at his parents' house, Perry's sleeping in a hotel room, soaking his bloody boots in the bathtub. The killers failed to find any money in the Clutter's farmhouse, let alone $10,000. All they got were a pair of binoculars and a transistor radio. So, Dick Hickok and Perry Smith are broke. To raise getaway money, Dick writes a series of bad checks and signs his real name. 2 days after they murdered the Clutter family, with just a couple $100 in hand, Dick Hickok and Perry Smith cross the Kansas border and enter Oklahoma. Then they drive nearly 1,700 miles due south to Mexico City. They spend a couple days in Mexico City, then drive another 400 miles due south to Acapulco on the Pacific Ocean. There, they meet a rich man from Germany who's on vacation. He befriends them, he takes them fishing, and Perry hooks a 10-foot sailfish. But as soon as the fishing trip ends, Dick and Perry come face to face with the harsh reality that they're broke once again. So they drive back to Mexico City, where Dick plans to get a mechanic's job in a garage and bring in enough money to keep them afloat until Perry can find work. They sell the car for $200, but Dick quickly finds out that being a mechanic in Mexico City pays next to nothing. They go through the $200 in no time, and when the rent comes due on their hotel room, they can't pay, so they split. They pawn Herb Clutter's binoculars to raise enough money to eat, then start hitchhiking. They work their way north and cross the border back into the U.S. From there, they travel further north into California, and then east to Omaha, Nebraska. And in Omaha, they steal a car and return to Olathe. There, Dick writes more bad checks, still signing his own name. From Olathe, they drive to Miami, Florida, stay for a while, then drive west to Las Vegas, Nevada. By now, nearly 6 weeks have passed since the murders of the Clutter family. The Garden City police ran into one dead end after another, then turned the case over to the Kansas Bureau of Investigations, and KBI assigned Special Agent Alvin Dewey to lead the investigation, and they gave him 3 top-notch investigators to assist. But the KBI investigation also goes nowhere. They still haven't ID'd a single suspect. The killings of the Clutter family gains national attention from day one, and newspapers from coast to coast continue covering this story every day. And the Hutchinson News offers a $1,000 reward for information leading to the capture and conviction of the Clutter killers. Now, do you remember Floyd Wells, Dick Hickok's cellmate at Leavenworth Prison? I'll bet you do, when he hears about the reward money and immediately contacts KBI. The agents meet him at Leavenworth for a sit-down. He mentions telling Dick Hickok that Herb Clutter kept $10,000 in cash in his farmhouse. He says the notion of stealing the $10,000 fascinated Hickok, and Hickok told him he planned to rob the farmhouse and not leave any witnesses. And he said Hickok mentioned getting another former Leavenworth inmate, Perry Smith, to be his accomplice. And just like that, the KBI finally has 2 legitimate suspects to pursue. So now let's go to the night of December 30th, 1959, about 45 days after the murders. And Dick Hickok and Perry Smith are cruising along the Las Vegas Strip, driving the car they stole in Olathe. A Las Vegas PD policewoman spots the car. She checks the license number, and ding, 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 she's got a winner. She stops the vehicle and runs a background check on Hickok and Smith. The check comes back quickly. They're both wanted for parole violations in Kansas, plus Hickok's also wanted for passing several bad checks. The policewoman arrests them on the spot. As soon as Alvin Dewey gets wind of the arrests, he and his 3 KBI associates fly to Las Vegas to try to solicit a confession from the 2 men. They interview the suspects separately. Dick Hickok adamantly denies having anything to do with the murder, but Perry Smith confesses, and the case looks solved when the KBI agent sees Perry Smith's boots and run a few tests on them. Remember, when Chief Geisler and Rich Rollator were processing the crime scene, they observed nothing of an evidentiary nature. But one of the killers left a bloody footprint on the basement floor close to Herb Clutter's body. The footprint was not visible to the naked eye, but it became visible once they developed the photographs. Here's the photograph, minus the doctoring I mentioned earlier. Subsequent forensic tests would match the heel of one of Perry's boots to the crime scene photos. The next day, Dick Hickok confessed. Both men were then extradited to Kansas and incarcerated at Leavenworth Prison once again, awaiting trial for murdering the Clutter family. So, that's it. Manhunt successful, and for now, we leave the prisoners while they await their trial. Remember, I used Truman Capote's In Cold Blood as the model for Born to be Wild, my classic outlaw biker saga, which takes 20 years for the killer to meet his final justice. Go to barrybo.com for information about Born to be Wild and all my books. Thanks for stopping in today. Until next time. See you. And that's a wrap.